There it goes. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Turf Talks and our virtual helpline. These live sessions will take place every Tuesday in September at noon. These sessions will be recorded for later viewing on the Henrico Extension website. My name is Ed Olsen, and I am the VCE Agriculture Extension Agent in Henrico County. Virginia Cooperative Extension brings research-based information to the localities we serve. Our Master Gardeners are a trained group of volunteers who extend the extension resources and programs available. The Henrico office is always here for you to diagnose plant problems and answer all your plant-related questions using research-based information. The Henrico office can be reached at 804-501-5160. At this time, our office is not open for walk-in consultations, so please call with your questions or use our Ask an Expert link that can be found at our website at henrico.us/extension. Today's session is being led by Will Adams. Will became a Henrico Master Gardener in 2016. He is also part of our Smart Lawns program. Our Smart Lawns client visitation program was suspended for the 2020 year due to COVID, but should be back in 2021. Check our website in late March for information. If you have any questions for Will, please type them in the chat box. At the conclusion of Will's presentation, we will answer those questions related to his presentation, and then also answer any other home and gardening related questions. All right, Will, all for you.
Good afternoon. Welcome, and very much enjoyed the Smart Lawns program as being part of a Master Gardener, and we'll start the presentation now. For September and October, it's the best time to improve your lawn. The overseeding process should take place during this time, and it requires multiple steps, which we'll review here shortly. But the overseeding process is so important to get a good lawn started for the fall and to get going for 2021 rather. So Smart Lawn was, I've done about 30 Smart Lawns within other Master Gardeners and interns during the course of my work here. I love getting out and talking with customers like you and trying to solve your problems and improve your lawn. Next slide. The common questions most folks have is, how do I know how much lime to use? Should I apply every year? Why do I need a soil test? And then other questions come along. Should I aerate or dethatch my lawn? What is the difference? What do the numbers mean on the fertilizer bag, which is so important? Do I control weeds in my lawn? How do I control weeds in my lawn? What is the best difference between broadleaf and grassy weeds? To the first question, soil test is probably the key to managing and understanding your soil. It can be done by you, the homeowner, and person that keeps your yard. It's a test of the soil nutrients and other information that's vital to make a decision on fertilizer and liming requirements. The test is probably good, and we tell folks about 3 years. So, and it comes from Virginia Tech's recommendation, and all of the recommendations are per 1,000 square foot of based on the quantity it recommends. So you have to read it very thoroughly to understand what to use and the amounts to use. The other thing that soil test does for you is just to give you a guidance as to what you need throughout the year, both fertilizer and lime in particular. Should I aerate or dethatch? Both if possible. I think the aerating is probably the more important. Some people dethatch their lawns as they go, but in the fall, if you could do both, that would be the preferred route. What do the numbers on the fertilizer bag mean? For example, if you have fertilizer of a 10-10-10, the first number is nitrogen, the second number is potash, and the third number is phosphate. All are important, and the soil test that comes back will give you the fertilizer recommendation listed, for example, as 10-10-10 per 1,000 square foot. That you really don't want to deviate too much from that those ratios, and the time to apply is, it varies depending on weather. How do I control weeds in my lawn? What is the difference between broadleaf and grassy weeds? This is a very common question. There's a lot of documentation that we give out to the customers concerning that. The applications of chemicals to control your weeds is done usually in the early spring. So that's something that you can work on based on the type of weed you have. It's pretty much self-explanatory as far as the broader, wider leaves on the plants is considered the broadleaf leaf, and the grassy weed would be like the crabgrass, etc. Smart lawns, next slide. Smart lawns have answers. We go and visit customers' homes. I've been doing smart lawns for 4 years, first year as an intern, but been a team lead for 3 of those 4 years. And what that means is we basically measure the lawn once we get a request, and we go to you, we set up an appointment with you, ask what type of grass you have and what problems you're having, and what is your foreseeable future of what you want your lawn to look like. And then we come out, we measure the lawn for square footage, we take soil sample, and then we have a sheet that we actually do an evaluation of the lawn based on shade and weeds and what quality lawn it is, and provide that information so that the extension agent can write up a report based on our findings. The process usually takes anywhere from 3 to 4, maybe 5 weeks. And that information is very, very important for you to plan your year. Next slide. Step one of soil test is taking the soil test, soil sample, and which is sent off to an agency that provides the testing results. The soil, we have a soil sampling tool that we use, which goes down, if we can get it that far, up to about 5 to 6 inches, and we do it in multiple places, front yard, backyard, side yard, etc., to get a good sampling of the yard soil, and mix it all up in the bag and put it in a box, and it's shipped off for processing. And that really is the key to getting the information to you, so that once you start working with your lawn in the spring, you can figure out what lime and fertilizer requirements and set up a program based on the information that's provided in the soil test. Next slide. Step 3, aerate for roots. This is so much important. There's different types of aeration, but the one that we prefer is the aeration, which, you know, plugs the soil, and what that does, it helps with root and air and circulation and moisture. And also when you plant your seed, the seed will get down into the soil that's been plugged. And you can see the device that's being used in the photo there. You can rent these units from a rental agency, as well as you can hire it out and have someone do it for you. Oops, I went too far. How do I go back, Ed?
The backspace key on the keyboard.
Okay. The aeration process, I skipped that slide, release of soil compaction and detached buildup, allows oxygen, water, and nutrients to reach the root system. Most soil moisture is most important. In the soil compaction, one of the things you can do is use a screwdriver to stick into the soil and see how easily it goes in. If it's real, you can only get it in inch and a half. That soil is really compacted. If it'll go down 5, 6 inches, then it's not compacted. On the soil moisture, we recommend using a rain gauge. If you have an irrigation system, 1 inch per week would be ideal. If you need to test your irrigation system, you can use a tuna can and measure it that way, so that you don't overwater. You don't want to use too much. And we have been on sites where the actual soil was mushy and stuff like that. You don't want to overwater on your irrigation systems. Core or hollow out time aeration is recommended, and that actually breaks up the soil a little bit more. The screen that you're seeing now is dethatching. Some lawns, if it's you really have a heavy growth, can have a high buildup of thatch down in below, close to the root system, and there are devices that can strip that out, and so that the the grass actually can get sunlight down in there close to the root system. Sometimes you have to rake the debris off the lawn after you dethatch, depending on how heavy it is. The equipment that you see here is a rake with the prongs in the left and blades here that actually turn, that strips the old grass thatch out from below the surface. And there's also equipment that's motorized, so that it helps you get the job done. For contact information, you see here on the extension information, it's always helpful to keep this information handy so you can call into the office. I guess time for questions, Ed.
Yes, it is. All right. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat box and we will go through them. A couple that have come up, I'll go ahead and answer. First was, is this presentation going to be recorded? And if so, how do I get the link to it? The presentation is being recorded, and we will be emailing everybody that registered for the program, whether they attended it or not, the link so that they could view this at a later time. Additionally, the program will be posted on our county website, which is henrico.us/extension. We will be setting up in the next week or so, we'll be setting up a virtual classroom webpage, and it will be posted there. But again, if you registered for the program, we've got your email address, and we'll be sending out a link to that as soon as I get it prepared for posting. The next question was that someone had was that they've heard that over liming is bad for the turf, but also under liming is not good either. She guesses that it is better to underline, but the question is how much less is okay to still get results from my liming. We do recommend that you get a soil test done so that you can have that pH proper for turf grass or for whatever that you're growing in your garden. The soil test will tell you how much lime that you need to apply. In Virginia, our soils tend to, the pH tends to trend down over time. And so that's why there was always, people said, oh, just put down lime every year and that'll be fine. The problem with that is that if the pH gets too high, and so the plants aren't growing well because the pH is too high, it's harder to get the pH brought down. You have to apply sulfur, and it's not as readily available. So it's a lot harder to get the soil pH to trend down. So again, we would recommend that you get a soil sample done and apply the lime properly so that you don't end up over applying lime for your lawn. Soil pH for lawn is usually between 6.2 and 7.0. Does better around the 6.2 range. If you need a soil test kit, you can reach out to the Henrico Extension Office. The number is right there on the screen, 804-501-5160. Since our offices aren't open to the public at this time without appointment, we can mail you a test kit. You could also go to any of the open Henrico County libraries and they will have test kits there. Or you can come to our office and we do have an information rack outside the door and you can pick up a soil test kit in the information rack outside our door. All right, we have any other questions? All right, thank you, Will, for that wonderful presentation. Our next Turf Talks and Virtual Helpline program will be next Tuesday, September 22nd at noon. Our turf topic next Tuesday will be on lawn fertilization. In this brief presentation, you will learn about how to properly fertilize your cool season lawn in the fall. Thank you for your attendance and have a nice rest of the afternoon.